Well, we're back to talking about RWBY again. If you read the title of this video, you probably have a decent idea of today's topic. Teams are one of the most fundamental aspects of RWBY's world, established from the very beginning of the show. They are arguably also one of the series' biggest detriments in terms of world building. But let's back up a bit. I know most of you probably know the general idea of how teams work, but just in case you're muddy on the details, let's talk about it. In the world of Remnant, Huntsman Academies are designed to help train the next generation of heroes, specifically warriors whose primary purpose is fighting off the creatures of Grimm. These huntsmen and huntresses can serve other functions, but that's the main reason for the Academy's existence. Students are grouped up into teams of 4 at the start of their enrollment and expected to work together until graduation. How are they grouped up, you ask? It's complicated. For example, Beacon's team assignment involves hurling all the kids into a monster-infested forest and expecting them to figure out their own landing strategy. Assuming they survive the fall, the students will then be expected to partner up with the first other student they meet. This duo must then make their way to the heart of the forest, where they are presented with 2 sets of chess pieces, one white, one black. Each duo must collectively choose one of these pieces. The kids must then bring their chosen chess piece back to the academy, where they'll be paired with whichever group got the matching piece of the opposite color. So if you and your partner pick the black queen, you'll be paired with whatever duo got the white queen. Your team name will then become an acronym consisting of everyone's starting initials, but the first initial must also be the team leader's. Basically, the team name has to be something that can be feasibly read as an actual word. JNPR is juniper, CDRL is cardinal, etc. This does raise some questions though. Like, if Weiss had been put in charge of her team, it probably would have had to be something like Team Wibber or Team Rib. If Pyrrha was in charge of her team, would you call that Team Pringe? If this sounds needlessly convoluted, well, it is. Not only does the selection method leave a lot to chance, it also doesn't necessarily even guarantee good team composition. Of course, each academy has its own team selection process, but the others aren't really that much better from what little we know about them. It really is just kind of randomly matching students together and hoping that the group's leader can not only step up to the role, but also that the team members are compatible to begin with. Given that every huntsman or huntress has their own totally unique combat style based on their weapons and/or semblances, you'd better hope you get matched with people who can complement your technique. From a narrative standpoint, the team gimmick really just serves to get the actual main 4 girls grouped together early on. The only other characters that really benefit from this whole arrangement are Team Juniper, and even then, the dynamic is mostly split between Jean and Pyrrha / Ren and Nora for the first couple volumes. For most of the rest of the show, though, the team dynamic kind of hurts more than it helps. RWBY is pretty notorious for its cast bloat issue, and I'm fairly certain that the team dynamic is at least partially responsible for that. I mean, there are some characters who clearly exist for no other reason than to just fill out the roster of 4. Take Team Sun, for example. Sun Wukong is a character who's primarily tied to Blake's plotline and character arc. He's literally introduced by himself in Volume 1, having stowed away on a ship and gone ahead to Vale without the rest of his team, just for the fun of it, really. In Volume 2, we see Sun and Neptune hanging out a lot, though we don't see the entirety of Team Sun together until their fight in Volume 3, after which 3/4 of the team vanish as Sun returns to mostly being a solo character who follows Blake around. Like, this is the dude who the team is named after, and their leader. Yet he barely even spends time with them at all. It really does feel like Team Sun only exists because, as a huntsman, Sun himself needs to be part of a 4-person group, despite clearly preferring to just be doing his own thing. Also, for some reason the rest of Sun's teammates are based on Neptune, Peter Pan, and Aesop. Like, why not make them the other disciples from Journey to the West? It was right there, guys. Team Coffee are also victims of this whole situation. When Rooster Teeth decided they wanted to take the rabbit girl we saw being bullied in Volume 1 and make her into an actual character, they of course needed to give her a team. The members of Team Coffee all have a loose dessert theming to them, though Coco is also partially based on a fashion designer with affiliations to the Nazi Party, which may not have been the best choice in hindsight. Seriously, whatever happened to just basing characters off of fairy tales? Of course, the biggest offenders of this are probably Team Cardinal. You know, the group of bullies that act as Cardin's cronies at the start of the show. Do you even really remember the rest of their names? Don't worry, I don't think anyone does. Not only are these guys just here to be fellow assholes to help pick on Jean and occasionally some other students, but their designs are remarkably bland even for background characters. You really could have just had Cardin by himself if you really needed a high school bully archetype, but again, because he has to be part of a team as a huntsman trainee, they had to give three other completely generic characters to fill out the roster. I think what makes this all extra hilarious is the fact that huntsmen and huntresses are known to frequently break off and operate solo after graduation anyways. The whole idea of putting people into teams isn't necessarily a bad one, especially since Ozpin wants to stress the importance of humanity working together and being stronger in groups, but the way it's handled in the actual show is just really sloppy. Seriously, the number of professional huntsman teams that stick together after graduation seems distressingly low. So, yeah, the whole team building process is needlessly complicated and results in the addition of characters who exist just for the sake of filling out the four-person quota. Of course, this doesn't necessarily mean the idea of teams needs to be abandoned altogether, just retooled in a way that actually better suits the narrative. As with many issues in RWBY, there are a myriad of ways to go about this, and none are necessarily better or more correct than the others. Even so, after giving the matter quite a bit of thought, I believe I found one direction that could alleviate a lot of the issues from this setup. For starters, I don't think the team should be quite so randomized. Given that everyone has their own unique weapons and fighting styles, I feel like it would make more sense to group up students based on their individual strengths and skill levels. Team RWBY works, in theory at least, because the girls all complement each other in that regard. Yang is the brawler who gets in close and draws the enemy's attention. Blake weaves in and out of combat for quick and deadly strikes. Weiss mostly provides support with her dust and semblance. And RWBY is a sniper who can pick off enemies from afar, even if she seemingly much prefers to get in close with her weapon in scythe mode. Honestly, that could make for an entire character arc unto itself. I feel like Ozpin should be the one assigning teams before the trial mission based on what students would best complement each other in the field. Maybe with a little help from the staff to figure that out. Of course, it would be up to the kids themselves to work out a dynamic and learn to cooperate. On that note, instead of immediately throwing them into a life-threatening situation, I feel like it would make more sense for the teams to compete against each other. No grim, just a game in which the students must prove their ability to cooperate. This could be just about anything, really. Capturing other teams' bases, stealing chess pieces from each other, whatever. The point is that I feel like this would do a much better job at establishing dynamics and relationships early on, forcing the main girls to quickly get acquainted and figure themselves out. It would also serve to more properly introduce any and all relevant teams and the characters contained within, as we get to see how they operate with each other compared to our actual protagonists. Of course, each academy could still have its own rules and philosophies for how huntsmen and huntresses should be trained and operate. I imagine Atlas, being so heavily militaristic, would take a more uniform approach to training units. Maybe Shade Academy could actually put a bigger emphasis on individualism, forgoing teams altogether and allowing huntsmen and huntresses to pursue solo careers. You get the idea. Lastly, I do feel like Beacon students should be allowed to choose their own team names and elect their own leaders, rather than it being chosen for them. Considering how much Ozpin seems to prize the ideas of teamwork and self-expression, forcing an acronym onto the kids that loosely reads like an actual word doesn't really help this point. If we must insist on RWBY being the name of the protagonist team in the actual show, it could just be that that's the name the girls ultimately agreed on, even if Weiss would probably be a little hesitant about it. The other groups can call themselves whatever they want, maybe pick names more fitting for their actual teams. But that's just how I'd go about it. What do you all think? How would you handle team building in RWBY, given the chance? Leave your thoughts and comments down below, and until next time, stay bright.